The best of Money Matters. The Hot Seat.
Welcome to the Hot Seat, a debate segment where ideas clash and insights spark. I'm your host, Hongbin Jeong. Now, Singapore is known for its excellence, whether in academics, business, or innovation. But when it comes to sports, do we truly celebrate our own? Our athletes train tirelessly, yet many feel overlooked, underfunded, and overshadowed by international sports stars. On the other hand, some argue that Singapore does appreciate its athletes through financial rewards, sponsorships, and world-class facilities. So, are Singaporean athletes truly underappreciated, or is this just a case of unrealistic expectations? Well, before we dive deeper into this debate, here's a disclaimer. The views and arguments presented by our interviewees do not necessarily reflect their personal beliefs or opinions. Instead, they are here to provide a fresh perspective on the topic at hand. So without further ado, joining us today is Brandon Ooi, who is the Singapore's Canoe sprint athlete, who will be sharing more on why Singaporean athletes are indeed underappreciated. And on the opposite side here, we have Dr. Valerie, who is the president of Singapore Bowling Federation as well, and she will be telling us how exactly Singaporean athletes are being appreciated despite people saying otherwise. Welcome both to the show.
Hi, nice to meet you.
Hey, thanks for having us.
Thank you. Thank you so much for joining me today. All right, just to start off our conversation here, what do you think of the current situation surrounding the Singaporean sports industry? Maybe Dr. Teo, you can start off?
Sure. So I think the Singapore sport industry has come a long way, at least from the time when I was an athlete, I guess, quite some years ago. With introductions of new scholarships for athletes, I think the scholarship range has gone from beyond just those who are currently in their peak performance, but even to those who are potentials, right? People that we are grooming and developing, and all the way to even after athlete life, where we provide them support through education or even through work life after sport. The sport industry is growing, right? It is growing. We are having more opportunities. And for myself, I see it in the bowlers and see it in my bowlers. Some of them are still current national athletes. They're working full-time jobs. And we have actually companies who support the athletes. They get time off. They actually come down and support them and give them the opportunity to train, compete at the top level, come back with medals, and at the same time still have a good career path for them. So I think the sport industry is healthy. Of course, we are still a relatively young country. The sporting industry is also growing along with it. So I hope to see a lot more in the years to come. But I think we are in good, steady state.
Okay, Brandon, what do you think?
Yeah, I think I can corroborate that sentiment. Yeah, we don't even need to go that far. I think when I started kayaking in 2007, we really had nothing going for us. So no funding until maybe the Youth Olympic Games, where it started to come in a little bit. And then we had to constantly prove ourselves, especially as lesser known sport. A lot of the funding didn't come to us until we actually did something to prove ourselves. And then it started to roll in, and now we have a youth academy, we have multiple coaches taking different age groups, different levels of development. So I think all in all, when there's progress, then I don't think we can be too upset about it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, the Singapore government has recently stepped up in providing more support for Singaporean athletes by planning to concentrate the national sports efforts in one integrated hub called the High Performance Sport Institute. Now, there's also things like the Sports Excellence Scholarship, also known as SPEC Scholarship Program, and Student Athlete Scholarships from NUS, and even the Singapore Olympic Foundation Peter Lim Scholarship. Now, Brandon, given the government's investment in sports infrastructure, training facilities, and scholarships, how can we claim that Singaporean athletes are, underappreciated?
At the moment, I would say that remains to be seen, because I think a lot of these schemes that you mentioned, they are not currently in progress and they are plans for the future. And I think while it's a step in the right direction, I think as a current athlete, of course, I've benefited from some of, for example, the SPEC scholarship. But I also believe that because I'm in a unique situation where I just got off the SPEC scholarship as well, and I tried to look for a job. And I think that, yes, there are schemes to help you to progress to the next stage of your career. But I think within this space where I have a lot of experience in sport, trying to transition or pivot into a new realm. This experience doesn't carry through in terms of the eyes of the employers, even though it might have like that sense of respect for what you do. But it's not something that directly translates. So I spent a lot of years in the sport, and it doesn't really directly translate into something that I can say that I will have career progression because of that. So that's just my opinion. I'm sure that there are quite a few people within this unique group as well that faces this problem as well.
Okay.
I think just to sum it up, it's more like the overall sentiment of what we do is not necessarily translatable or applicable in the so-called real world. Yeah.
I see. Well, Dr. Teo, still, if the government support is strong, why do Singaporean athletes often have to rely on personal sacrifices and external sponsors to fund their training?
So I think as an ex-athlete, just, deep from my heart, for an athlete to succeed, to be at world level, to be world class, you must really want it. And there will be sacrifices that come with it. And I think every athlete acknowledges that. Some days are harder, some days are better. We take any support that we can get. But as we grow, as we develop, of course, we need more things added on to support us. But it takes a whole village, right? So the government has provided the structure. It has provided scholarships. It's trying to grow that realm of scholarships. It's trying to centralize what we can for sports science. So I think sports science is one of the things that has really evolved and has changed the landscape of sport for us. We never used to have nutritional support. We could barely get enough strength and training and conditioning support. And this has all evolved, and the integration of both SSI and NYSI into the High Performance Sport Institute. I'm looking forward to see how this can then really fully help the athletes in their whole journey of development, from being young athletes all the way to being high-performing and world-class athletes. But the village has to extend beyond, right? The village really has to extend beyond. We do need society, the community to come in and also be part of this journey with the athletes, for the corporates to come in and say, hey, I'm going to sponsor the team, I'm going to do more. And beyond that, just to add to Brandon's point, as an employer, I hope that the businesses out there realize that these athletes come with skills that are not easily found. These athletes spend so many years of their life being able to be agile. They adapt to situations, they get through critical moments, they can think fast on their feet. And more than anything, they are resilient and they understand the true meaning of teamwork, right? So these are intangible benefits that they can bring to companies. And I really do hope that employers seek out these athletes and realize the value they can bring to their businesses. They might have spent 20 years in the sport and they come to you later. But tap on that experience, tap on the expertise that they can bring to enhance your business. So I do hope that everybody really starts to rally around the athletes, that the government has laid the foundation. They have laid down the infrastructure. They're trying to provide more support. As NSAs, we come in to do what we can for athletes in our specific sporting areas. But we really do need all of Singapore to come forward and support the athletes.
Well, having said that, the support given by the government is mostly recent with, economy and business in mind. So, Brandon, wouldn't it be right to say that this is kind of a token effort rather than a genuine commitment?
I think everybody has different opinions about what it means by token rather than genuine effort. I think that the Singapore government really believes that they are truly trying to help with the sport development in Singapore. I think, again, from an athlete's point of view, a lot of the money actually goes in and develops the infrastructure, and to a lot of athletes, it's certain things we don't need, right? There are certain things that we already have. Why are we spending money on that? And I think, understandably, every athlete has an idea about what they need, what they don't need, and everybody thinks in silos. And I think that's the government's job, to bring it all together and to understand what benefit has the most so-called net benefit to everybody. For me personally, I do believe that the individual help really matters, because for me, if I had a choice, I would still be on the SPEC scholarship. So one thing that I wanted to at least go through till the time that I'm done with the sport, and then now transition to a career. But somehow circumstances didn't make it such.
Right.
So I do think that at some point, when you do believe that this person is going to at least bring some glory to the country, I do feel that the appreciation is there when you see it through to the end. Yeah.
But I mean, it doesn't help the cause when some athletes only treat sports as, a so-called hobby rather than a serious career, which leads to the lack of appreciation here. So, Dr. Teo, in this instant, how would you respond to this?
I believe every athlete's journey is different. Everybody's desire, whether it's a sport that I do in school because I enjoy the camaraderie, I enjoy the environment, versus athletes who really want to be world-class and take themselves to the top of their game. I think it's not really people's mindset that people just see it as a hobby. I think all the athletes that have been on this program are serious about it. They are representatives of the country, of the nation, and they're people that we should be very proud of. I think sometimes people underestimate the challenges that athletes go through. And it's not often seen. And a lot of times you will see the victories, but the tears, the hard work, the sweat, the blood are things that they will share with their teammates, their family, but may not be as visible to everyone. I hope that we can slowly change that perspective, that we not just share in the wins of our athletes, but realize that there are challenges, and these are people who have laid down their childhoods, their teenagehoods, their adolescenthoods to do what they can in the sport and to give something for Singaporeans to cheer about. So really to support them even through their difficult times, through the darkest days, because that's where every bit of support really counts.
Right.
Yeah. So I think a lot of athletes, they do want to be at their best. But we must also recognize that not everybody is going to be the number one in the world. Right? But we want every athlete to strive to be the best that they can be. And then we provide the opportunities for them to grow in that direction. Some of us will make it, some athletes will not. Right? But we must give them the opportunity, and we shouldn't be too quick to feel that the athletes are treating it just as a hobby. Some of them really just enjoy the sport, and that's fine. There will be a group that do it in school, and then when they move on, they reach a different life stage, and then they will move on to their career, start families. But there are athletes who are taking this very seriously, and this is the group we should not forget.
Well, speaking of striving to be the best, over the years, Singapore's sports culture has, slowly diminished, and even parents of young children do not encourage their kids to, pursue a career in sports due to the lack of a so-called future, unless you are a generational effort. So, Dr. Teo, putting this into context, then don't Singaporeans also play a part as well for losing interest in local sports, considering how they are the ones that determine public opinion on supporting careers?
Singaporeans definitely play a very big part in the sport ecosystem and sporting culture. Maybe it's my own personal experience, but I do feel that young parents or parents are still investing in sport because they do realize that there is value in bringing their kids to experience different sports, whether it's a team sport, individual sport, because there are a lot of skills and life experience that they can learn from it. And a lot of them do it as a family. I've seen young families now pick up pickleball, pick up paddleball and other sports. And for bowling, we are a sport for all ages. So you can see multi-generational families come in and enjoy the sport together. Right. So there's a lot of intangibles in sport that sometimes we don't realize. So it is, of course, individualized to various cultures and experiences. And some people may want to invest more in music, in the arts. But I think having something beyond the academics is important in the development for a child and as a development for a youngster that's coming up in today's society. So I don't really feel maybe that parents are overlooking sport, but we do know we are experiencing a lower birth rate. There are fewer children around these days, and maybe that is the feel of the absolute number of people around doing the sports. But I think generally people do recognize the value of sport, and I think it's still something that a lot of households hold very dear to them, and things that they do as an adult, they will definitely ensure that their kids sort of follow their footsteps and do it as well.
That's a very good point you highlighted there, Dr. Teo. Well, one thing we can all agree on is that Singapore itself is business-driven and academic-focused, making it hard for culture alone to actually retain the Singaporeans' interest in general. So, Brandon, isn't it unfair to say that our athletes are not given enough recognition when our government has indeed praised national athletes, who are often celebrated as national heroes when they succeed, helping inspire future generations?
Yeah, I think the government has done increasingly better job at recognizing athletes. Because we want to do well at everything. But if you try to do well at everything, then you don't really target anything, right? I think that's something I learned over the years as well. So you have to prioritize, you have to focus. I think one of the things is that Singaporeans as a whole, we prioritize our living, right? Maybe being even more comfortable with our lives, and money is part of that. So to see something as like whether it promotes the economy, whether it promotes having more jobs here, whether it helps to raise the standard of living of people, that's what people are looking at. And of course, people are happy when we win, but then what? right? So we have Joseph Schooling, who won the famous Olympic gold medal. We have a bus for him. We had the bus for the Olympics and Paralympians. But those are all one-time things, right? And when we have games, we will celebrate the winners. We will celebrate them going for the games, but only during that period. So I do feel that Singaporeans also end up following in that suit where when there is something happening, then okay, let's cheer for them, let's go all the way and have that recognition for them. But once it stops, then a few days later, everyone forgets about it.
Right.
Yeah, so that's what I do feel. And of course, because I'm also coming from the sport background, I see the people who are rallying together. But those who are not, I wouldn't be able to see them. So then I have a biased view that, there are a lot of people coming and supporting and cheering, but I wouldn't know about those who are not. Yeah.
I mean, it's not like even if an athlete doesn't win a medal, it's not like didn't put in blood, sweat, and tears. Everyone have been training tirelessly and put in all their effort. So we should recognize all of them, right? Okay, so something all sportsmen and women can agree on is the development aspect of athletes, which are crucial to maintaining their peak performance. So in your opinion, for both of you, are there any differences between a male and female athlete's development, and are there any major factors that would play a role here? Maybe Dr. Teo, you can start off.
So I'm going to take development a little more literally. So for a lot of athletes, I think as they are transitioning from when they are younger, for male and female athletes, they go through different development cycles in life. So we also need to recognize that some athletes may do a certain sport better before puberty, things will change, there are physiological, physical changes, and then they may need to then evolve, or their coaching team then needs to then evolve and give them time to adjust to some of these changes. Same thing for male athletes, right? When they go through puberty, they grow muscle mass, they start growing taller. I've seen my own bowlers go through these transitions and they suddenly have a growth spurt and, we need to make adjustments to their physical game. So I think every athlete, male or female, they go through different developmental stages as they grow from young to adult athletes. And of course, different life stages. Some will want to go to school. Some might want to focus on the sport before they decide on what they want to go and study. And some might want to start working and have that work experience while they are competing. So I think it's really then tailoring the support to athletes' individual needs. I think Brandon also mentioned that every athlete is going to come with a different experience. Every athlete is going to come with different desires and things that they want in their life, even after sport. So it's then how we rally around them and provide enough flexibility that the support can come around them regardless of the stage of development they are at.
Right.
And there may be athletes that go off and start families and come back. I mean, we've got that. Shanti is a very good example of that. And we want to celebrate her still being so focused on her sport. But there are things in life that they might have to go through or things that they need to do before they then come back to the sport. So it's then how we can rally as Singaporean and as the government, as the NSAs to support these athletes.
Brandon, what do you think?
Yeah, I think I want to again share the sentiment that every athlete, no matter whether they are male or female, they have different ways to the top. I would say if you look at global birth rate, I think in developed countries it's going lower. So the way that we use to filter people who are interested in the sport is that we give them really hard training. And then when people are just not that interested enough, then they will just fall off because they don't want to go through that hard training. But right now, we are facing a period where there are lesser and lesser athletes. And with the advent of sports science, we also have the tools available to be able to design programs, coaching, support for each individual athlete. So as we go through the years, we also see that individualistic efforts to tailor the program to a particular athlete is more and more prevalent, and that's why we are also seeing that there are more and more people who may not have been the tallest, the strongest, the biggest people who are actually starting to do better and better at the sport. So I think in this sense, whether is it male or female, we all have different benchmarks and how we are going to do well earlier or later in life, right? Even for non-sporting achievements, right? So we do need to take into consideration everybody as an individual and try to mold athletes from there. Yeah.
Right. Well, the reason why I asked you both about the development is because most of the time it will impact the financial incentives that athlete would receive. So, Brandon, if the real issue is that we don't yet have enough world-class performers to sustain public interest consistently, then doesn't it make sense for the financial remuneration to not be as grand as what overseas athletes receive?
To be honest, I think that there's a reason for it, right? Because the Olympic gold medal doesn't come every year, right? Every 4 years. We've had one, but since 1965, when we became an independent nation, we've only had one. So I think that the government is trying to encourage people to strive towards that. But to be honest, Singaporeans, we are practical people, right? We also know that not everybody is going to reach there. So how do we manage this, that the financial remuneration should be of a certain standard which allows people to not think about, okay, am I able to do this to survive? Yeah, so I think that's something that the government has to kind of wrap their head around to understand what's the pool and how much to pool and how much to remunerate. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, let's flip this around as well. Dr. Teo, if Singapore wants to develop more world-class athletes and sustain public interest, shouldn't greater financial investment be made to support their training, development, and long-term careers rather than waiting for them to succeed first?
Currently, the government is increasing the financial support that they are extending to the athletes, as well as building the infrastructure, creating the support system. But as I shared earlier, it's going to take a lot more than that, right? There are finite resources that we have, and the government has so many things that they are trying to layer on to support the athletes. And we do then need people in the community, people who support our sporting heroes and companies to come forward and be part of this whole journey. It takes a whole village. If we don't get this village right, if we are solely dependent on the government to keep increasing the funding, which they are already doing, they've moved the funding earlier for potential. They've supported the additional funding for after career, which of course they will continue to enhance, but it will take time, right? It is going to take time for some of these things to be felt and to be put in place. But we do need to rally everybody a little bit better. We have some companies that are very supportive through the Specs Business Scheme. And if we can get more and more of them to come on board, I think it will really grow that confidence that athletes have that they also have a career or something to look forward to after their sporting career. That it's a real transition, that people value the intangibles that these athletes bring, and that it's intentional, right? That before maybe a couple of years when we know that the athletes are all get older, whether we like it or not, right? And when we are coming closer to the end of our career, or we know that it's time that we want to transition, then we need to give them opportunities to do that. So in bowling, we've also started that a lot of our senior athletes, we give them opportunities as interns so that they get a bit of job experience and then they can decide, is the sport industry for me? If it is for me, then we will provide opportunities to train you in sport administration, in coaching, in sport science, and then we give you opportunities, even if it's not within the federation, but it contributes to the whole sport industry and the whole sporting culture in Singapore. So I do hope that, this is something that will happen soon. And it's my call to action for everybody to really recognize that these athletes have put in so much.
Right.
And while we've got support now from the government to help sports in general, to build the infrastructure, to get sports science, to get research going, which we're also doing, but we do need everybody, and every Singaporean plays a part. Every time you decide to spend a weekend watching a movie, take the time to visit a sport, watch your sporting heroes, whether they are competing at school level, whether they are competing at regional levels. There are sporting events happening in various sports across the island. Take the time, bring your families. Just go and cheer Team Singapore. I think that will really take us the distance. Because if we don't move as a country, then it's just our athletes and the NSAs trying to push and break boundaries. But if we want to break boundaries, and we are such a small country, and there are only that many of us, we really need to do it together. Right? Our sport industry is so young. If you talk about the West, they've got huge leagues, they've got such huge industries that support their athletes, and that's how they generate their world champions year after year. So if we want to get that going, then we have to start right from the base, from the community, get more kids in sports, get more youths interested so that they choose sport over just spending the time, Okay, I won't say that going to the movies is not a good thing, but it's a social event. But really to be out there and truly support the athletes and hopefully one day aspire to be one as well.
Well, on that note, I mean, it's always great to hear, these insights directly from the both of you who have been in the sports industry for some time. I mean, we've had a lot to discuss tonight, but I kind of want to let our listeners, especially Singaporeans tuning in right now, to hear directly from you two. Share with us how Singaporeans can show their appreciation to our athletes and why it would mean so much to you guys when they show that they care. Brandon?
Yeah, I think Dr. Valerie mentioned a lot of things about trying to get into sport, get your kids into sport. I think that's something that really helped build the foundation of our sport in general. But I want to add on to that as well. I think it's not just the youth, right? Not just the kids that should go into sport. I think anybody of any age, we are actually trying to encourage more and more people to do sport. And through doing the sport, you understand what it's like and how difficult it can be to actually get good at it. I think I want to cite an example of when we had COVID. Suddenly everybody started buying bicycles, right? So at that point of time, I think a lot of people started to shift towards like, oh, hey, I like this sport. It's kind of fun. And maybe I want to do a cycling marathon, right? And through that, falling in love with getting better, going for more and more competitions, trying to beat your time. Right, and I think that's something that Singaporeans innately have, like a little bit of that competitive spirit, right? And once they understand, then they will start to, hey, actually there's somebody that's better than me and somebody that's actually going to SEA Games, Asian Games, and maybe I'll follow them on Instagram. Yeah, so that kind of thought process, it's kind of natural, it flows very well. And I think even if you don't want to spend that effort to go down and do a sport, I think even for my sport, it's really, really difficult to get into. Something like just looking for it, looking for your sports heroes, following them on Instagram, sending them a nice message. It doesn't have to be during a games. It can be any time. I understand that you're going through hard training right now. Just wanted to say we Singaporeans support you. These kind of small gestures, even to the Team Singapore account, and so that they can share or something like that. Yeah, it takes like 10 seconds to do that. Yeah.
You heard it from Brandon. Do send him a message of encouragement. Oh, well, Dr. Teo, you mentioned just now about how you should skip the movies and perhaps go support your local athletes. But what does it really mean for, these athletes when they see all these Singaporeans come out and support you guys?
I think it's really affirmation of all the hard work that they've been putting in. It really makes a difference when you see 5 people in the crowd cheering for you, not just when you're winning, but when the going gets tough. That really gives you the extra boost and the extra energy to push forward. I think don't underestimate the power of messages. Don't ever underestimate the power that you have as a supporter of sport and our athletes and how far it helps take them. So even a pat on the shoulder and I recognize you in the hawker center, I think that goes a long way. So they know that they are recognized and they're recognized for the hard work that they put in for the country.
Well, thank you so much both for joining me today.
Yeah, thank you very much for having us.
Thank you. Hopefully this conversation will bring more light to our Singaporean athletes. Well, thank you so much. We've been speaking to Singapore canoe sprint athlete Brandon Ooi and Dr. Valerie too, who is the president of the Singapore Bowling Federation. I've been your host, Hongbin Jeong.
To listen to more great interviews, download our podcasts at audio.sg or download the audio app. That's AWEDIO, audio at the App Store and Google Play.